Major breaking news for immigrants in the United States. President Trump has signed a new executive order aimed at bank accounts associated with undocumented immigrants. According to the order, the administration argues that certain financial services help facilitate illegal immigration. The policy could also affect accounts used to receive government benefits. One of the most controversial parts of the order is that funds linked to violations could potentially be frozen, seized, or redirected, though exactly how that would work remains unclear.
The craziest part about this executive order is that these funds will be impounded and seized and then returned to taxpayers. This is a historic, massive shift. How are these banks going to track undocumented immigrants? How are they going to be enforcing this policy? How many people are going to be impacted by wrong misclassification? That all remains to be seen. If you're undocumented and you have money in the bank, you need to act now.
Donald Trump just banned illegal immigrants from owning a bank account. A bank account means you are stuck with cash. That means no debit card, no credit card. Government handouts are not paid through cash. You have to have a bank account, so no more government handouts. Places that you have to rent, own a home, buy a home, any government program to buy a home, need a bank account. Car payments, car insurance, buying a car, you need a bank account. Getting a loan, you need a bank account. A bank account means you are completely stuck in cash. The majority of life now is cashless. In fact, a bank account is a form of identity verification, and there's very few things you can do in life without one, which means illegal immigrants will not be able to function in the United States. Cash can only get you so far. So expect to see even more self-deportations within the next 2 years.
This is your money, everybody. That now Trump is going after the illegals in the apps of them trying to bypass. Look at this. Trump's using his new executive order requiring banks to conduct enhanced diligence on accounts involving illegal migrants with Zelle, with Venmo. Why? Because this is how they launder money. And now what you're about to see is we just caught some more individuals. Isn't it so crazy how it's so very one-sided, like one race? It's Somalis. And again, not all Somalis are bad, but it's just crazy that how many we're finding. 2 more women in Minnesota charged with another $21 million in Medicaid fraud scheme.
Undocumented immigrants might not be able to use Zelle or Venmo anymore because the Trump administration just recently issued an executive order basically threatening banks into looking into the citizenship status of their customers. Now, if you're undocumented, you're most likely using a foreign passport to open your bank account, which could trigger something called enhanced due diligence. Under this executive order, and if a bank does decide to follow it, then using a foreign passport or an ITIN number will degrade or lower your rating with the bank. If you're receiving a bunch of Zelle payments or Venmo back and forth, it could trigger something called enhanced due diligence, which would require an investigation by the bank. And once you're there, the bank will have to verify where the funds are coming from, otherwise you're no longer in compliance, which will also come with verifying your legal status. If you cannot verify your status with the bank, then they would have to either freeze your account or issue a suspicious activity report. Remember, this all depends on whether the banks will actually follow through with the order, because they have been initially lobbying against it for months now. It would cost them so much money just to verify the citizenship status of their customers, and also they just don't want to do it. They're just going to lose money all around. In the meantime, if I was undocumented, I would lay low on Venmo or Zelle.
Not be able to use Zelle or Venmo anymore. So last week, while I was on vacation, the Trump administration issued an executive order that is going to change the banking system once it's fully implemented. It will seriously limit undocumented people's ability to use Zelle or Venmo, because if they do excessively and they have no status in the United States and they used a non-US passport to start their bank account, what it will do is it will trigger what's called enhanced due diligence. So normally when you create a bank account, all you really need is your name, date of birth, and address, and some ID number. A matricula or your foreign passport, those have all been acceptable. But now under this executive order, what will happen is using a foreign passport or having an ITIN number will little by little degrade your rating with the bank. And if it degrades far enough, meaning you used an ITIN plus you registered with a non-US identification plus other factors, then you will eventually reach what's called enhanced due diligence. Once an account has reached enhanced due diligence, there's no choice by the bank. They have to launch an investigation into you. They have to verify where your funds come. One of the things that they will look at.
Now, the biggest concern being raised by critics is the possibility of unintended consequences. According to reports, banks may require to conduct enhanced investigations on certain customers, particularly those using foreign passports or even ITIN numbers. Opponents argue that this could create a situation where, legally present immigrants, visa holders, asylum seekers, refugees, and even U.S. citizens with unusual documentation face additional scrutiny. Financial institutions are also reportedly concerned about the costs and the complexity of verifying immigration status. Banks have spent years building systems focused on fraud prevention and, anti-money laundering compliance. Adding immigration status verification could introduce new challenges, increase operating costs, and potentially create risks of wrongful classification. Now, this debate ultimately comes down to two competing priorities: national scrutiny and financial access. Supporters of the executive order argue that the United States financial system should not be used to support illegal immigration. Criminal organizations, money laundering networks, human trafficking operation, or welfare fraud schemes. They believe that stricter oversight is necessary to ensure that banking services are, only being used to lawful purpose. From their perspective, requiring banks to perform enhanced due diligence is simply another layer of protection. They argue that if financial institutions already verify identities and monitor suspicious transactions, then verifying legal status should not be viewed as controversial. Supporters also point to concerns about cartel activity, cross-border criminal, and abuse of public benefits as reasons for stronger enforcement measures. However, opponents see the issue very differently. Many immigration advocates, legal experts, and banking professionals warn that implementing such a policy could be far more complicated than it appears on paper. One of the biggest concerns is determining who gets flagged for investigation and who does not. For instance, millions of people legally living in the United States use foreign passports, visas, work permits, asylum documentation, or even ITIN numbers. Critics argue that these identifiers alone do not prove someone is in the country unlawfully. As a result, they fear that lawful immigrants could become caught up in investigations simply because of the documentation they use. Another major concern is financial exclusion. Modern America operates legally through digital transactions. Paying rent, receiving salaries, obtaining insurance, building credit, buying a vehicle, securing a mortgage, and conducting everyday purchases increasingly depend on access to banking services. If individuals lose access to bank accounts, debit cards, credit cards, or even digital payment platforms, their ability to participate in daily economic life could become severely restricted. Critics argue that even temporary account freezes could create serious hardships. Imagine suddenly losing access to your savings, your paycheck deposits, or your ability to pay bills while a verification process is taking place. For many families, that could create immediate financial stress. Banks themselves are reportedly, raising concerns. Financial institutions may face significant costs associated with verifying immigration status, conducting additional investigations, training employees, updating compliance systems, and managing customer disputes. Some industry observers believe these requirements could increase operational burdens at a time when banks are already dealing with extensive regulatory obligations. Another issue generating debate is the question of seized funds. Reports suggest that accounts found to violate the policy could face asset freezes, seizures, or, other enforcement actions. Critics are, asking important questions about due process, appeals, legal protections, and how mistakes would be corrected if someone were wrongfully flagged. These concerns have fueled opposition from, immigrant rights groups, civil liberties, advocates, and some financial experts who argue that clear safeguards would be essential before implementing any such policy. At the same time, supporters maintain that strong enforcement measures are necessary if the government is serious about addressing illegal immigration and criminal financial activity. So, guys, where does that leave us? The reality is that both sides believe, they are protecting important interests. One side emphasizes security, law enforcement, and accountability. The other emphasizes fairness, financial inclusion, and the risk of unintended consequences. What happens next will likely depend on how the policy is implemented, what safeguards are included, and whether banks can realistically carry out these requirements without disrupting legitimate customers. One thing is certain, this debate is much more than banking. It's about immigration, civil liberties, economic participation, and the future relationship between government oversight and personal financial access in the United States. And as this story continues to develop, it will remain one of the most closely watched and politically charged issues in America. Guys, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Also, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share as well. And until next time, bye-bye.